But anyway, I don't think you need much more introduction than that. Mr. Graham Hancock.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's consider an extraordinary possibility. Could there be a lost civilization lurking as yet undetected somewhere far back in remotest prehistory? Could the myths of a former golden age brought to an end by an immense global cataclysm be true? Plato provides the archetype with the story of Atlantis, for which he's the earliest surviving source. He describes Atlantis as having advanced architecture, advanced agriculture, advanced shipbuilding technology and seafaring skills, and advanced social and political organization. It was once a beautiful and generous culture, but in time became arrogant, cruel, and materialistic. In a ringing phrase that should remind us of the behavior of advanced technological societies today, Plato tells us that it ceased to carry its prosperity with moderation. As though in punishment for this hubris, the universe slapped Atlantis down in a single dreadful day and night of fire, earthquakes, and flood. It was swallowed up by the sea and vanished. Mankind had to begin again like children with no memory of what went before. The view of historians and archaeologists is that Plato made the whole story up. Today, anyone who takes Atlantis seriously can expect to be accused of archaeological fantasy or worse, of fraud. Archaeologists have worked out timelines to construct what I call the house of history. These timelines, showing slow, steady evolutionary progress, are used to argue that there's no room in our past for an advanced prehistoric civilization like Atlantis, or for a cataclysm big enough to have wiped it out. But new science, not yet taken into account by historians and archaeologists, should give us pause for thought. As we'll see, there's now growing recognition that an extinction-level global cataclysm unfolded very recently, right in the foundations of the house of history, between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago. Could this newly discovered cataclysm be connected in some way to the cataclysm of earthquake, flood, and fire that Plato tells us destroyed Atlantis? Cataclysmic events shake and reshape the world and allow new stories to emerge. 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs were wiped out in a global cataclysm. If their line survives at all today, it may be in chickens and other birds. But at the same time, a little shrew-like creature, the ancestor of the mammalian line, was skulking in the primeval forests, going nowhere. Once the dinosaurs were cleared out of the way, however, that shrew began to evolve. And 65 million years later, here we are, the new rulers of the world. So at risk of oversimplification, what happened 65 million years ago was so huge that it turned dinosaurs into chickens and shrews into human beings. It's now universally agreed that the cataclysm was caused by a 6-mile wide chunk of rock from outer space, hitting the Earth at about 70,000 miles an hour. Scientists are divided on whether the culprit was an asteroid or a comet, but whether asteroid or comet, it left a distinct fingerprint in the Earth. A layer of ash and soot marking the KT boundary, the Cretaceous-Tertiary boundary, that is filled with iridium, carbon microspherules, nanodiamonds, melt glass similar to trinitite, and other minerals subjected to huge temperatures in excess of 2,200 degrees centigrade, the boiling point of quartz, across enormous areas of the Earth's surface. These are the characteristic chemical signatures of a colossal cosmic impact. Nothing else can account for them. They're referred to as impact proxies. Lewis and Walter Alvarez were the father-son team who revealed the true nature of the KT event. For more than a decade, they were subjected to quite vicious attacks from other scientists who refused to accept the evidence of the impact proxies. Only when the crater left by the impact was found deeply buried beneath the Gulf of Mexico did the criticism cease. The Alvarez case for a cosmic impact and related extinction 65 million years ago is now regarded as confirmed. Keep this in mind while I introduce you to the work of another group of highly credentialed scientists. There are more than 30 members of their team. Their leading lights shown in this slide include Jim Kennett, Alan West, Richard Firestone, James Whitaker, and Albert Goodyear. They initially joined forces to investigate a mystery of the closing millennia of the last ice age. The last glacial maximum, if you look at the chart, was reached 21,000 years ago. After that, temperatures began to warm. But then suddenly, with ice sheets still 2 kilometers deep on top of North America and Northern Europe, there was a striking and dramatic plunge in temperatures, a short, sharp deep freeze that lasted from roughly 12,800 to 11,600 years ago. This period of extreme and anomalous cold is known to geologists as the Younger Dryas. The mystery is what caused it. It turns out that precisely at the Younger Dryas boundary, there's a layer of ash and soot in the soil, referred to as the black mat, distributed across a vast area of the Earth's surface and filled with abundances of the same impact proxies that bear witness to the KT event. Unlike the KT event, however, the Younger Dryas cataclysm is astonishingly recent, just 12,800 years ago. Initially, the team put the event at 12,900 years ago, but with subsequent research, that date has been refined down to 12,800 years ago. This is the first paper published by the Younger Dryas Impact team. It appeared in PNAS, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, in October 2007. The headline speaks for itself. Evidence for extraterrestrial impact 12,900 years ago that contributed to megafaunal extinctions and the Younger Dryas cooling. I'll show you a few more of the team's papers, just to make the point that this is mainstream, peer-reviewed science we're dealing with here, not the lunatic fringe. PNAS 2009, shock-synthesized hexagonal diamonds in Younger Dryas boundary sediments. Very high temperature impact melt products as evidence for cosmic airbursts and impacts 12,900 years ago. Evidence from Mexico. Evidence from the Greenland ice cores. Evidence for deposition of 10 million tons of impact spherules across 4 continents 12,800 years ago. Here's the Journal of Geology, 5th of September 2014. Nanodiamond-rich layer across 3 continents, consistent with major cosmic impact 12,800 years ago. Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, July 2015. The evidence presented in this paper rules out any possibility that the impact proxies in the Younger Dryas layer were laid down gradually, say over periods of hundreds of years. The Bayesian chronological analysis shows that the cataclysm was unleashed synchronously, in a geological instant, effectively, a single dreadful day and night. Moreover, the evidence tracks the fingerprint of the cataclysm across more than 50 million square kilometers of the Earth's surface. Multiple bolides, thought to be fragments from a giant disintegrating comet, came in on a trajectory from northwest to southeast. The primary impacts were on the North American ice cap, then still more than 2 kilometers deep. There were further impacts on the Northern European ice cap, and the furthest east evidence for the impacts has so far been traced is Syria. Because the primary impacts were on the North American ice cap, it's been difficult to find craters, since the craters were transient, excavated in 2 kilometer deep ice that has subsequently melted away. Despite the abundant evidence of the impact proxies, the absence of craters has exposed the team to the same kind of attacks that Lewis and Walter Alvarez suffered. In the last couple of years, however, craters have been identified in areas beyond the edge of the former ice cap, or where the ice cover was thin. These craters are the final pieces of the puzzle that should settle the debate. 12,800 years ago, multiple fragments of a giant disintegrating comet hit the Earth, with the epicenter of the cataclysm on the North American ice cap. Why did the impacts 12,800 years ago cause the worldwide plunge in temperatures witnessed at the beginning of the Younger Dryas? The best explanation is that floods of icy meltwater released by the heat and kinetic energy of the impacts flowed off the North American ice cap and into the Atlantic Ocean, where they interrupted the Gulf Stream, a key element of the central heating system of our planet, hence the sudden and dramatic cooling. Why did the Younger Dryas end equally suddenly 11,600 years ago with a dramatic rise in temperatures? As long ago as the 1980s, the British astrophysicist Sir Fred Hoyle became intrigued by the sudden temperature rise at the end of the Younger Dryas. He proposed a comet impact in an ocean as the agency, producing not only tidal waves, but also sending a vast cloud of water vapor into the upper atmosphere where it shrouded the Earth, creating a greenhouse effect large enough to account for the dramatic warming. It's possible that further fragments from the debris stream of the same disintegrated comet that hit the Earth 12,800 years ago were involved in the events of 11,600 years ago as well. Astronomers calculate that this comet originally entered the inner solar system about 20,000 years ago.